The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented.
Welcome to Wonderfully Made. I'm Dr. David DeRose, president of Compass Health Incorporated. Today we're speaking about a subject that is politically charged. It's a subject that really often gets undue attention in ways that I wish it didn't. We're speaking about an important medical subject today, but it's one that has unfortunately often labeled and marginalized people. The topic today is obesity. We want to put it in the proper framework, giving you encouragement if you're struggling with weight challenges, but also giving you hope. Again, I'm Dr. David DeRose, and today joining me is Dr. John Clark. John, this is a subject that I know many people feel guilty about. There are so many messages out there. Is the purpose of today's show to make people feel worse about how much they weigh if they're carrying extra pounds?
No, they feel bad enough as it is, and oftentimes they beat themselves up, and that may be why they actually continue their obesity.
You know, the important message today is that you are precious to God just the way you are. It doesn't matter if you weigh 100 pounds or 700 pounds. You are not of value to God because of your size or your appearance. God values you for who you are. And so as we set the stage for talking about this important subject, it's from the standpoint of compassion from two physicians, myself and Dr. Clark, who have dealt a lot with the whole area of lifestyle medicine, and we're legitimately concerned about what's happening in America and how this is affecting a host of things that sometimes are not reported in the medical literature. Dr. Clark, you lately, I know, have been looking a lot at the immune system. The immune system, of course, is related to cancer, but it's also related to infectious diseases. And as there is dialogue today about bioterrorism, about epidemics coming to this country, the bird flu, other strange viruses, the Marburg virus and Ebola virus, and all kinds of things are circulating out there. There's an important message when it comes to weight, isn't there, when it comes to the immune system?
Yes, one of the sad things that happens when you become obese is that your immune system suffers. It isn't as potent, it isn't as active, it isn't as prepared for these types of infections. And once you do get the infection, you have a harder time fighting it off. It's actually harder for the doctor to work with you when you get these diseases. So you are at a greater risk for these diseases.
So again, the point then as we communicate to audiences about carrying extra pounds is not to make people feel worse, but it's to say there's evidence out there, there's new information coming out, that some of the things that we're challenged by, and particularly as a culture, the challenge with carrying extra pounds is something that's having far-reaching effects, and those effects extend beyond some of the common things that you've been hearing about for a long time. Dr. Clark, one of the things that many of us are especially interested in who come to the Bible as Bible students and bring a medical perspective with us, we say, you know, as we study God's Word, as we try to get to know Him, as we come into fellowship with Him, do our health practices influence our ability to discern God's voice in His Word?
They definitely do, and we find that a lot of our health practices either stimulate better frontal lobe function, that's the front part of our brain where we perceive God, where we make decisions, where we do a lot of our spiritual thinking, that these health practices either help or hinder thoughts in that area. And the type of lifestyle that sustains obesity or brings obesity often shuts down those frontal lobes, makes decisions harder, makes perceiving God a little more difficult.
So the message is not if someone's carrying extra pounds, they can't have as close a walk with Christ as someone else. But the message that we're trying to convey is that obesity not only carries its own risks, but in genetically predisposed people, if you're carrying extra pounds, it may be an indication that there's some things in the lifestyle that are having deleterious effects on other aspects beside just your physical health. It can affect emotional health, psychological health, spiritual health as well. Dr. Clark, you mentioned this because many times people, because of the weight they're carrying, there are psychological and social implications as well.
That's correct, and you might ask which came first, the chicken or the egg, because sometimes this obesity, often the result of overeating, is the result of somebody trying to fill a void in their life through something they get satisfaction out of. They don't feel good about themselves, but they're happier when they're eating. They get a bit of a stimulus out of that, and that tends to solve that problem for them. The other thing is some people see obesity, not consciously, but subconsciously, they want this extra room around them because they fear intimacy. And this obesity tends to accomplish that. First of all, because they tend to be considered less attractive, as you mentioned earlier. And second of all, because they do have this distance that is automatically between them and others.
So, for example, women that have been the victim of rape or other violent crimes, especially when society often labels it as having sexual connotations, whether the psychologists label it that way or not, they often may feel, and I've heard women even articulate this, they said, well, I had this unfortunate experience once, it will not happen again because I am so obese. This is a protective mechanism, whether it's conscious or unconscious.
Yes, and that's exactly what we're thinking about here. And so sometimes the way to get over the obesity may not happen through just dieting. It may be a whole person approach, thinking about how to solve the social issues before you can really get at the physical ones.
So there's an important concept that we're talking about as we're trying to give people practical tools for losing weight. We're trying to put this in the construct of whole person health. And if you're carrying extra weight, the purpose, again, is not to make you feel guilty, but to help you appreciate the far-reaching implications of carrying extra pounds, and then to give you some insights into things that you may be overlooking that may make a difference. What Dr. Clark has been saying to this point is some type of counseling, whether it's pastoral counseling or other things, not necessarily specifically about weight, but recognizing that there may be some things going on in the background, maybe even in your past, that are making it difficult, if not impossible, to shed the pounds with lifestyle approaches. Now, Dr. Clark, we know that there are many people, and you made this association with overeating and weight gain, but there are many people who are overweight who are very careful with their eating. And if you sat down with them, you followed them throughout the day, and you followed their next-door neighbor who's thin, they actually may be eating less in some cases, and they're very upset by categorizations like they are a glutton or can't control their appetite, because sometimes that's not operative. When it comes to eating, though, are there certain things other than just total amount of calories in that make a difference as far as the whole weight equation?
Yes, and I think of a lady in our community up there in Maine who weighed 500 pounds, and she decided she wanted to lose weight. And she did some research on it. She was a fairly bright, educated person. She was working in a secretarial position and decided that the best way to lose weight was to get exercise, walking, and to go on a total plant food diet.
Okay.
And so she was too embarrassed, though, to walk in the daytime. So she would go to a graveyard at about 3 a.m.
Wow.
and walk. And she did this for, I think, a year and a half and lost about 150 pounds before she would decide she could walk where people could see her. And over the course of, I think, 4 years, she lost all the weight. She was thin. But all of a sudden, this is interesting, she became kind of upset because people who before would not look at her now wanted to talk to her and be her friend.
I see.
And this was very offensive to her because she felt they didn't value her for who she was.
This is very important to discuss because many people don't realize that when there is a dramatic change in appearance, there are significant psychological implications. People will treat you differently. It will affect relationships. It may cause broken relationships because maybe people that you were close to or intimate with, their perception may change. They may be more insecure. Especially they feel that there's someone more attractive with them and they're not worthy. There's all kinds of dynamics that happen here. So weight issues are not just issues that involve physiology, they involve psychology. It's one of the key messages we want to give you today. If you're having challenges when it comes to weight loss, we're not saying you have a mental problem. We're just saying look at the whole range of spiritual and psychological resources, because these can be very important in the whole process. Now, Dr. Clark, I've got a statement here from a medical journal that I'm interested in your feedback on. This came out not all that long ago, but it was in a publication written for doctors. Here's how they put this. Kids used to walk to school, eat dinner with the family, and ride their bikes through the neighborhoods. Today, America's children are more apt to curl up with a bag of chips and an after-school video than to play outdoors. Most will choose a Big Mac and fries over a tuna sandwich and an apple. They spend about 4 hours a day watching television, playing video games, or using a computer, and they are fatter and more sedentary than previous generations. Childhood obesity is at an unprecedented high. What do you think of that characterization of our children? Is that warranted?
Oh, I think that is just a statement of observation. And it's true that diseases that are a result of obesity have crept lower and lower in the age brackets in our country. Grade school kids are now getting diabetes type 2, which used to only be called adult onset. And as a consequence, there's been a number of school programs that have been put together just for children to help them with diabetes. And I've seen a number of these. Some of them have been put together by students for students. Okay. PowerPoint presentations and whole things like this. And so the concern is there that as obesity increases, other degenerative diseases will also increase, and longevity will become a thing of the past.
So one of the interesting implications of this is oftentimes people that struggle with weight in adulthood are struggling with the consequences of things that became operative in childhood. And so the family environment is often something that comes into focus. Even people that are now in their 50s, 60s, or older, when obesity was not as prevalent in childhood, often carried extra weight in childhood. They may have come from a family where weight was a problem. And so as we speak about these issues, again, it's not to label you as having a problem, it's not to label you as a bad person. You're a person of immense value, and to not speak about the subject and to give you pointers would be doing you a disservice. You'd expect a show that does programs on health to not uncommonly address from different perspectives, from the minds of different professionals, things that you can do to address what is really an American scourge. 67%, that's a current statistic of Americans, are either overweight or obese. And so we're speaking today about things you can do. You may not be able to change your childhood background, but what lessons, Dr. Clark, can we learn from some of these childhood risk factors, whether it's more television viewing and things? We're on television right now. You and I are speaking. Is television associated, television watching, is it associated with obesity?
Yes, it sure is. The thing that happens when you watch a TV is it basically puts your mind into alpha waves, sends you into sleep waves. And at the same time, it tends to stimulate your appetite. So you sit there mindlessly eating food, and the hours pass and the calories pass, and pretty soon you've not only lowered your metabolism, but you've upped your calorie load. And so watching TV and eating fast food is associated with obesity. It's also associated with diabetes.
Well, let's give a key point here then. If you're concerned about your weight, one of the things you should do is only eat at the kitchen table. Don't eat in front of the television set. And actually, I would like to suggest, Dr. Clark, that the kind of viewing that's featured on 3ABN and other wholesome networks is much different than the fare that most people are watching. The psychologists and the medical researchers who've looked at television and the connection with obesity, they've drawn conclusions like Dr. Clark has, but they take it one step further. And this may have been between the lines in your comments, but they say this appetite that's being driven, as you mentioned, it's not just that they're sitting in front of the TV, it's what they're seeing. It's the commercials. It's the companies that are paying for the placement of their soft drink in the hands of the svelte heroine in the soap opera. And the message is being given by television programming, conventional programming. We're not talking about 3ABN, but it's saying you can basically eat anything you want, eat it any time you want, and you can have the perfect figure.
Yeah, you know, and this kind of gets back to where we were headed earlier with are there, you know, foods that are better or worse? You talked about the neighbor who is the same weight, but are a different weight, but they ate the same thing. And then I talked about the lady that put herself on a plant-based diet.
Right.
And this is one of the keys here. These things they advertise on television are not necessarily designed to help you lose weight.
So not lots of commercials on television basically touting whole grains and lots of vegetables and things, eating more beans. Are there many commercials out there like that?
Yeah, where's the bean?
Okay, so basically what we're saying is eating more plant foods may not be as extreme as the patient you mentioned. We're not saying that everyone who's trying to lose weight has to become a total vegetarian. But these foods, they are loaded with nutrients. And when you eat, especially vegetables, if you haven't heard this before, the 3 classes of vegetables that are the best for diabetes and weight loss are what I like to call the stalk, stem, and flower vegetables. Excuse me, leaf, stem, and flower vegetables. Stalk and stem are the same. So, Dr. Clark, what does that conjure up in your mind? What kind of vegetables?
I think of broccoli right away when you say that,
okay.
The stem and the flower, but a leaf like spinach or kale or that kind of cabbage, lettuce.
Exactly. So these things are loaded with nutrients, very little calories. And most people who have problems overeating will not tend to overeat on these foods. It's very rare that I've dealt with a patient, and there's been a few exceptions over my 20 or so years of medical work, who've told me they overeat on some of these leaf, stem, or flower vegetables. Dr. Clark, meal timing.
Yeah.
It's something that a lot of research has looked at. What do you think about that? Can someone eat the same number of calories but eat it at a different time of day and have a totally different result as far as their weight?
Absolutely. Those who don't eat a regular breakfast, by not eating a regular breakfast, we mean people who skip or eat it at various times or eat scantily. Those people who do not eat a regular breakfast are twice as apt to be obese as those who eat a regular good breakfast.
You know, it's a surprising statistic because a lot of people say, well, I'm trying to lose weight, so I'll skip a meal. But your body physiologically is different later in the day. You're programmed to rebuild the body, to rebuild even fat stores. So the calories you eat at night is not just because you don't exercise as much. Metabolically, you're primed to use those calories to go toward weight gain. Dr. Clark, early in the day, physiologically, your body, what's it up to?
When you first get up in the morning, you should be more hungry. That is, if you didn't eat your breakfast the night before.
Okay. Your breakfast the night before, like the evening snack or late supper.
The evening snack or late supper. And so your body is looking for food. People who eat breakfast before they go to work are more productive. Those that don't eat any breakfast are less productive. Those that wait and eat breakfast when they get to work are less productive. Kids who eat breakfast before they go to school make better grades, have higher IQs. Those who don't eat, they don't have the energy to keep the brain going. People who eat after 5 o'clock in the evening, on the other hand, see most of that food turn to weight.
So really, even if people are eating the same amount of food, the research literature is very clear that avoiding as many calories as possible later in the day is going to help you shed some of those pounds. And I've seen that many times in my patients, John. No doubt you have over the years as well. Just switching that evening meal, eating more early in the day has made a big difference.
Yes.
You know, one of the things I'm very interested in as we speak about this topic is hunger.
Yes.
Because if people don't eat breakfast, what then happens to them when they show up at work at 8 o'clock?
Well, they're running on a deficit. They're trying to make food from the night before's meal, which isn't going to be glucose. It's going to probably be ketones and other products that aren't the body's favorite food, especially the brain's favorite food, they won't feel as awake. So as a consequence, they usually reach for a coffee or some other chemical substance to help boost them, make them feel like they have the energy that they want to have. They'll eat high glycemic index foods like donuts. They'll spike their blood sugar up, and then they'll have a real deficit when it comes down, because what goes up must come down, and it usually comes down hard. And so they usually end up with more hunger. And instead of eating breakfast, they end up eating more calories and snack foods to make up for the energy they need, and it isn't good food.
Good point. So basically what we're saying is there's some simple pointers that can help make a difference as far as losing weight. First of all, pay attention to the spiritual and social connections in weight. Take advantage of professionals, whether it's your pastor, whether it's just spending more time with God's Word. There are simple principles of mental health and social health that can make a difference, and counseling can often be helpful. We're not saying you have a mental problem. Realize that's not the point, but these things can be part of the equation. We've talked about diet, proper food choices, eating more of those plant products, especially the vegetables, and not the root vegetables, but especially those that have a flower, a stalk, or a leaf. These can be very helpful. And then prioritizing proper meal timing, eating a good breakfast, very important, not eating between meals, and then keeping anything you eat late at night to a minimum, at least as far as the caloric intake. Now, Dr. Clark, we have talked about exercise a little bit. We've mentioned its importance, but it seems like we really need to give some more practical information about exercise, because it is an important part of the equation, isn't it?
Oh, exercise is definitely an important part of the equation. This is your way of burning calories. And you might wonder, well, when's the best time to exercise? And there's a number of key times that are very valuable. Exercise before breakfast tends to burn a lot of calories. And it's important also for stimulating a better appetite for breakfast.
Excellent point.
When you're dropping an evening meal. The other thing is to walk immediately after eating. This aids in the digestion of the food you do eat. Now you're talking about eating more stems, leaves, and flowers, and a person who's not used to eating that a lot may experience some changes. And they might end up with some gas or some other problems that they might feel is a reason why they shouldn't change. But most people, if they make the switch within 3 or 4 weeks, will get over the gas problem. Their system will change to like the new foods. Their appetites will change. Their taste will change. And it'll become a way of life, and they'll be more healthy for it. You won't only feel, you'll not only be losing weight, but you'll be feeling better at the same time.
No, I think that's an important connection. And recently we were holding a program at our church helping people make healthier nutrition choices, especially with from the framework of preventing heart disease. We're actually running a CHIP program. Many of you who watch 3ABN know of Dr. Hans Deal and his Coronary Health Improvement Project. And that's what we saw. As people were losing weight, it wasn't specifically a weight loss program, but they were making healthier choices. And what were they saying? They were saying, I feel better. My quality of life is better. So as we're looking at these issues, it's not, again, to make people feel worse than they already do. It's to say, look, there are simple things you can do. There are pointers, some other insights that you can take advantage of that can make a difference. If we can give you just a little bit more incentive, a little bit more motivation to do some of these things you already know, to rely on God to help you put into practice just what you know, you can see some profound benefits. Now, Dr. Clark, this brings us to another issue, because whenever we speak about weight reduction, someone is thinking in the back of their mind, oh yeah, there's that weight chart, or the doctor said I've got to lose 100 pounds, or my ideal weight is 233 pounds less than I weigh now. How useful in your work with patients over the years do you find it to have a goal weight?
Well, I don't find it that useful. I mean, it's obvious if you're, 300 pounds that there's a goal somewhere below that. But I often like to tell patients, you want a fitness or a health goal.
Amen.
Yes, that you can shoot for. And in this case, a fitness goal might involve a goal as how far you can walk, or what exercise you can accomplish, what work you can do. You know, a fitness goal might have to do with how long you can keep your heart rate up at a certain level.
No, this is so important, because a lot of people, I think, set themselves up to failure because of society, because of other people in the family. You're thinking you're not a success when it comes to your weight unless you get down to a certain amount. And so you make good progress with a good program, and then, John, you know what happens. These people, they can't, on a realistic program, because of their early lifestyle influences, maybe their genetics, maybe other factors, they can't get down to being 5'2" and weighing 110. It will never happen and be able to maintain a reasonable lifestyle. So when they plateau at 140 and they're 5'2", and someone is saying you still look kind of chubby, even though they've lost 60 pounds, they feel like a failure. And this is the greatest disservice anyone can do. This person has made tremendous progress.
Yeah, you know, you started out talking about the television and what kind of models are put before us.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, those are not the best models. I mean, they get these cachectic, by cachectic we mean underweight and poorly and not very healthy people, models, wearing clothing that that's very, and this is not the goal. The goal is a good health goal and a good fitness goal, and you have to, you know, tread against the currents in that sometimes. Tell people, yeah, you know, I'm not shooting for being a supermodel. I'm shooting for being me at a weight that I enjoy and that makes me healthy.
That's right. Do not, you know, the important message I think we're giving is do not let anyone discourage you in your efforts because you've only, quote, only lost 5 pounds. I don't care how much you weigh. What the medical research literature shows is small changes in weight, small losses in weight can have profound differences in decreasing your risk of diabetes, of heart disease, of high blood pressure. John, you've seen that, no doubt, even dealing with arthritis, haven't you?
Oh, definitely. And in arthritis, say arthritis of the knee, if you are overweight and you have pain in the knees, they've shown that if you can lose 10% weight, you get a 28% improvement in knee function.
Tremendous, tremendous.
Yeah, the returns are good.
You know, John, this message to me is an encouraging message, and I just pray that we did justice to it. If you've been listening today and you're carrying some extra pounds, the message is you're precious to God even if you gain weight over the next week or over the next year. But the flip side is equally true. God wants you to have optimal health. Jesus said, I have come that you might have life and have it abundantly. And there are lifestyle factors that can help you trim down. They may not cause you to have the, quote, model figure. You may never reach that goal weight that someone said you're supposed to weigh. You may not look just like your twin brother or your twin sister, even though you are twins. But the message is a simple lifestyle program, healthy diet, exercise, mental health, social health. All of these things can go a long way to helping you lose some pounds and experience a greater sense of well-being and even a clearer mind. For Wonderfully Made, I'm Dr. David D. Rose.